You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For those of you that don't pay much attention to high school basketball recruiting, you need to know the names Cameron Boozer and Cayden Boozer. They're two of the most highly sought after players in the class of 2025, rising seniors for next academic year. And if that last name sounds familiar, it's because they are indeed and in fact the sons of Duke legend Carlos Boozer. Now, let's not kid ourselves. For anyone other than Duke to land these two young men, these twins, by the way, it's going to take a Herculean effort and a perfect recruiting pitch to outduel Jon Scheyer and the Blue Devils. But I love Carolina's pursuit of them. I love the chutzpah from Hubert Davis to say, I'm not conceding these two guys to Jon Scheyer and to my arch rival. Even if Carolina doesn't land them, I love what this signals to people, that Hubert Davis will recruit against anybody at any time, anywhere, even in the face of what seems like silly odds, right? Now, some of you, and I get this argument, would look at that and say, then it's a waste of time and resources for him to go after these guys. I totally hear that argument. I just want to put forth my belief and my opinion that I love this. I think it's just shows that Hubert Davis is like, no, I can get these dudes. But also the reality that they've been pretty vocal, the twins have, that it is not a done deal to Duke. Nor, by the way, is it a done deal that they are a package deal. All the more so, that says to me, all right, legitimately, if these two dudes continue to say over and over and over again, I did a show on them last summer. We talked about a similar thing. They've continued to say that and reaffirmed it to Sam Lance of the Zags blog. I'm looking for the tweet on that. Forgive me as I look for it. Yes, Sam Lance tweeted that, quote, Cameron and Cayden Boozer confirmed again with zagsblog.com that they are not necessarily a package deal when it comes to choosing a school. They will do what's best for them individually, end quote. Here's part of it. They're not like identical twins who do everything exactly the same. Cameron is the higher rated player. He's number 2 at every recruiting service across the board in the class of 25, behind only generational player AJ Debonsa. And then Cayden is a point guard. He's 6'3" and runs those kind of things. He's like 16 in the composite rankings. And so it's really interesting to me. But when you hear that quote confirmed yet again, that they are not like necessarily a package deal, this is another part of why I think it's worth Hubert Davis and the staff continuing to pursue these young men. You just don't know in this day and age, either initially, like coming out of high school, or if one of them comes back around in the transfer portal later on down the road, that you might be able to land them. We're starting to see some of those rivalry lines drop away where, you know, Carolina has some football players from NC State now, right? Like that's a real thing. And so while, yes, Carlos is Duke royalty, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that one of his sons could be a Tar Heel. That's the world we live in. Jaron Stevenson, Tar Heel by blood. His mom played for the Tar Heels, goes to Alabama because it makes more sense with fit and playing time and other things like that. You know what Duke gets on their roster year after year after year. And if they look at that and they're like, that doesn't make sense for me, then come on down to Chapel Hill. We'd love to have you. Now, I think it would be hilarious if one of them picked Duke and one of them picked North Carolina. How fun would that be? Pretty crazy storyline and would just be another wild chapter in the rivalry, right? Like insanely so. But you think about a world, a realignment world, in which, what if Carolina and Duke don't wind up in the same conference? That is very much a reality. And then all the more so, you think about these two young men playing potentially at different places. So a couple updates specifically for Caden Boozer, the point guard of the Twins. He himself, while Cam is the more heralded of the two, Caden is an elite 5-star player himself. 6'3", 190. Again, he's ranked 16 in the composite rankings, 14th at ESPN, 17 at 247, 21 at Rivals, 24th at On3. He's ranked the 3rd point guard in the class overall. And in this blog post from Zag's blog, he names the 5 schools that are currently recruiting him the hardest. Note, this is not a final 5 that he's narrowed it down to. Just here's who's really, really coming after me right now. But this is who he's naming, so that's not nothing. Those 5 schools: Miami, and if that sounds like an outlier, the Twins play for Christopher Columbus High School in Miami, so it makes a ton of sense that Larinaga and his staff would be in on him. Listen to these 2 names, they make a bunch of sense. Kentucky and Arkansas. Yes, there you go. That's the John Calipari connection. Arkansas would be an outlier if it were not for Coach Cal being there now. And then the other 2 of those 5 are the Duke Blue Devils, and yes, your North Carolina Tar Heels. Caden Boozer has named them as one of the 5 schools most hotly pursuing him. I love it. In this article, in this blog post, he discussed each of these 5 schools. I just want to quote for you what he said about North Carolina in case you haven't seen it. Quote, they have a lot of good guards, and just talked about current kind of players. RJ Davis, Elliot, Cadeau, all those guards are really good. They help their guards play well, meaning North Carolina, and they produce a lot of wins because of those guards. So I feel like it's a great play style for a guard. On Hubert Davis, Caden Boozer said, quote, he's just a great coach, a good person to talk to. He's one of the best coaches in college right now. Yeah. So it's always good to talk to him, a coach like that, end quote. In fact, the article mentions 3 key factors in Caden, specifically Caden's recruiting, will be how coaches take care of their players, trust in the head coach, and development. Now, I don't know enough about John Shire personally to speak to how he takes care of his players. It seems like he does a good job, but ain't nobody keeping up with Hubert Davis in love and care of their players. Who out there is demanding their players to come meet with him every week one-on-one so that he can know them and they can know him? Like, I just don't see a world in which John Shire or anyone else goes to the level that Hubert Davis does from a relational standpoint. Trust in the head coach, development. He would get all of that at North Carolina. And by the way, as somebody that's probably been in not only his father's shadow, but his bigger brother's shadow most of his life, and I mean bigger from a stature standpoint, wouldn't it be interesting to get out from under his shadow and go make a name for yourself more than, hey, we're the Boozer twins? It's a possibility, right? And again, they have said we might split up. And so Cam Boozer, I could see that being a real thing. Now, he has taken a couple official visits already. 3 of those 5 schools on his list. He's been to Duke on an official, Miami on an official, and Kentucky on an official when Coach Cal was still there. He's also taken an official to Florida, but didn't mention them in the 5 that have been recruiting him. So keep that in mind. And then Cameron Boozer also had some quotes about North Carolina and really respecting. I won't read the whole thing to you, but again, high praise for the North Carolina program, high praise for Hubert Davis. It's clear that the North Carolina name and brand and coaches, importantly, and style of play all mean something to these young men. They get it. And in a day and age when loyalty to the school on the front of the jersey isn't as big a deal, just keep your eye on it, man. How rad would that be? I would love it. And would we troll Duke so hard if we landed a Boozer twin?